Hello everyone and welcome back to the Brightworks and another match of Beyond All Reason, where today we're jumping into a action-packed match on Forge. If you're familiar with the map, then you're gonna know that it's one of those maps that really doesn't go to the late game. Typically games, 30 minutes is kind of an end game scenario on Forge. It's a very explosive map and definitely one that's ripe for action. So I'm very excited today to see a bunch of noobs jumping into the game and playing one of Beyond Our Reason's most exciting maps, I would definitely say. Today, spawning is the Red Armada Commander, right up here on the front line in the Geo spot, which we'll touch on this in a minute here. It's going to be none other than Liz R74, or maybe it's Liz AR74. That makes more sense, actually. The Liz AR74 here. Going to be going into some of those good old-fashioned Armada vehicles. Now, one of the things that makes Forge so special, as you may have already noticed, is that there's very few metal extractors. At least on the front lines, the metal extractors are far and few between, and each one of them is worth quite a lot. So you can see only 2 metal extractors here, and each worth 4 metal per second. Means that Liz, I think, is going for the right decision here, going for vehicles, because spending that metal, it definitely requires, well, units that are expensive to build, and none other than vehicles are so expensive that it's worthwhile to go for it. A couple of solar panels, a couple of wind turbines come up and running, but one of the most important features of this map is, of course, these very prominent geothermals. 5 geothermal positions here, ripe for the claiming. And typically the commander that manages to make better use of these is the one that ends up on top. Spawning on the other side, spawning on basically the exact opposite, but same position on the other side of the map here, it's going to be none other than Bluto. Now, Bluto spawning as the appropriately named Blue Cortex Commander, going to be playing here as a Blue Cortex Commander, playing some bots on the front line. Already with some grunts out on the field and going to be going for a couple of solar panels, some wind turbines, and as well a couple of constructors. Now, the Duracell AA crystals, and even we have some AAA crystals here as well. Going to be showing some, I guess these are like I guess these ones would be the AA's, these would be the AAA's, and these would be like the D-cell batteries or something like that, or the carbon batteries. Anyways, the crystals all around the map going to be super useful for especially getting the early, what is it, 15,000 metal? Yeah, no, sorry, 13,000 energy in order to build one of those geothermal. It's super, super important that you build one of those because obviously that that slingshots your economy. Rock shots, what was I thinking of? Anyways, that slingshots your economy forward quite tremendously here. The greatest Newt going to be moving forward as well. Newt indeed, the Powder Blue Commander, stepping very aggressively far forward here, going to try and set up an LLT to deny this metal extractor. And I like that quite a lot, actually. I think being really aggressive here will pay off. Building this LLT so far forward obviously denies 4 metal per second here. That's either going to be going to the Yellow Commander or the Pink Commander. Either one of these two comms could arguably claim this, and right now it's going to be the greatest Newt, who at the very least keeps that metal from flowing into the bank account here. A couple of ticks swarming across the map right now, as the Red Commander is continuing to push forward right alongside the Maroon. Wow, and just like that, okay. We need a little bit of micro here, Pat X. Looking at you, the 13 open skill, 2 Chevron hero right here with a bunch of AFK ticks in the backline. There we go, the ticks start moving and finally grooving, and now those metal extractors should be in tons of trouble. We need to see a right click and a drag in order to spread these out. Okay, micro slacking ever so slightly right there, but like I mentioned before, this is a learner's match, so, you know. All I'll say is a simple right click and drag around these metal extractors would have meant that all 4 of them go down. Obviously, 4 greater than 2. Still, though, a fabulous run by. Taking down those wind turbines, E-stalls Skarts here, the Green Commander, and of course, shutting off those metal extractors means the metal income is going to be slowed down ever so slightly as well. Yeah, those ticks coming back in. How cheeky. Super, super annoying to deal with these ticks in the backline. I think I'd like to see these used to kill the metal extractors. We can always use the Con turret to eat these up as well. Skarts has the tools, but doesn't necessarily know how to use them. That's so frustrating. There we go. Commander finally manages to take those down, but the red front line has been well established. And you can see, going for almost identical strategy on the southern side here, as the Red Commander is putting LLT up to deny that metal extractor here to Ophelia Enjoyer. But, I'll tell you a little secret. A commander can beat a LLT. You can't push too many LLTs with a commander. They do bonus damage to commanders, so they will blast down a comm very quickly. However, if it's just a lone LLT, even with a couple of units, you can usually cloak your commander for a couple of steps, and it gets you far enough that you can go ahead and de-gun down that single LLT. It can clear up the front line really nicely, and not to mention, of course, it throws, well, 85 metal down the drain, not to mention whatever other units are de-gunned down as well. Early on, vehicle players are very, very low on units and very low on metal, so every unit that you can de-gun down really adds up super, super quickly. But hey, look at this. The greatest Newt now up 2 against 1. I like to see that OG is actually contributing on the front, not doing some sort of tech or anything, just getting some bots with rockets out there on the front line, firing away those long-distance missiles towards the LLTs here of the greatest Newt. And all of a sudden, the hundreds and hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of metal worth of light laser towers that have been dropped onto the front line are suddenly worthless. Those siege units are going to take them all down, basically as quick as they can. And we do have an aggravator pushing forward, but a single aggravator is not going to be nearly strong enough to deal with this amount of aggression. That's why I always say units are better than statics in, 90% of the cases anyways. They're almost always going to outperform them because, of course, you can use those units to kill the enemy units, or you can use them to break down the static defenses. Static defenses will only be useful against units, though. You can't really use them against other static defenses. I mean, technically, there's some caveats to that, but in 90% of the cases, that's going to be true. Loads of these grunts going down right here. A little bit of a misplay from the blue commander. Maybe thought that there was a little bit less power available right there. But instead, with the LLT and Sedoxis to repair it, that LLT will stand. And now the aggravators are quite low, but still up and running as well. Would love to see a repair on those. Need these aggravators to fire away. There we go. Bluto now does have the aggravators firing away. On the southern side, meanwhile, a big old run-by as aggravators have punched through the defensive perimeter and now start to harass some of these units in the retreating front line. Ophelia and Joyer going for an aggravator here. Is this... I mean... Yeah, this is a decent position. Guarded by the LLTs, which also have a nice little wall right here, is always cool. The aggravator probably has enough of a position right here to actually be very, very annoying. Yeah, you know what? I don't mind this. On basically any other map, I would say this might be a little bit wasteful. On this map specifically, with how much metal is really truly available, I think this is probably perfectly fine. You have a couple of construction turrets to repair it up so that this front line doesn't get too damaged, and I think this is going to work out quite nicely. It does a decent amount of damage to those tanks, too. It's never... You know, I don't highlight it all too often, but the aggravator does a fairly substantial amount of damage. Pawn's trying to run by, but actually not really getting the greeting that they thought they were going to. Those, ooh, nice Janus connection right there from the red comm. Sends those reinforcements to the southern side, and hey, you know what? I think that's an excellent hold right there. Yeah, loads of medium tanks were sent forward, but with the reinforcements from the pawns of the hot pink player, as well as the aggravators, the HLT, the light laser towers, and of course the Janus tanks, their medium vehicles sent out, T1 medium vehicles sent out here by the red commander. I think that worked out quite nicely. Aggravator continuing to whittle down this front line, and again, it's sort of a damage over time kind of thing. I would love to see it targeted down the, targeting down the metal extractor here would be quite nice, but obviously there's other targets here to focus on as well. Plenty of aggravators in the front. There is a jammer up and available right now for Yellow Shift, who has gone for one of those very cheap Cortex jammers, only 115 metal for one of those bad boys, and has covered this front line quite nicely. HLT going to stop the bots from pushing forward, but it shouldn't stop anything so far as the Wolverines or Shell Shockers are involved. These outrange the HLT, so these should be pushing forward to siege right now. They just may not have the appropriate vision for it. Yeah, you can see they're aware that an HLT is out there, but without radar vision or without line of sight vision, it is a little bit sketch. Not bad. Loads of engagements in the air right here as well. The green commander is going up against the... Who is our air player here? The brown commander versus the green commander. Aggravators going up against each other on the front here as well. Always fun to watch one of these battles, of course, right? You're just, you know, watching these rocket bots slog at each other over and over again. Zedox is maybe looking for a trade here. Now gonna back off. Getting real low with that commander, too. Only 20% HP remaining, and again, 4% HP per rocket that hits that commander. Down to just 12 now. 4, 8, 12. I would say probably 3 to 4 more rockets is going to take the tank commander out, whereas Bluto is looking pretty good because, of course, these construction turrets have been doing a lovely job of repairing that commander. Geothermal right up here on the front line. Guarded by a beamer turret, which is always nice, of course. Going to be putting up some walls as well. Yeah, you know what? I think PCOM just has the numbers. The aggravators coming out in mass here to break through the defensive line. Every volley that they fire means another aggravator goes down right here. The Rocketeers, rather. Killing the aggravators of the powder blue commander. The greatest Newt forced backwards into a bunch of these HLTs. Again, not the end of the world, but those vehicles do outrange them eventually. Now T2 is already rolling out to the field here, 9 minutes into the game. I mean, I guess it's not that late into the game here, but the T2 is rolling out nonetheless. There's still no radar, or rather radar jamming available over here. And I would love to see a Cerberus cannon set up. Cerberus can be essentially game winners in this map. Specifically, Cerberus on this position or this position right here can be really, really dangerous to deal with. A couple of those gunships in the air, by the way. Shot down by rocket bots of all things. Another big volley of rockets heads out. Doesn't connect with much, but it did head out. Love the concave right here from the purple commander. I will say the concave here, the shape of this engagement looks quite a bit better for the purple com. A lot of these units are going to friendly fire when they're bundled up like that. So I think that works out quite nicely here. The red team seemingly putting quite a bit more units on the front line, much more into units on the front, whereas the blue team is going for a little bit of a more tech-centered focus here. T2 vehicles rolling out from the red commander, but we do have these AGOs queued up right now from the blue. Gonna get those AMEXs up and running. Of course, that's 8 metal per second. No, pardon me, 16 metal per second for every one of those AMEXs that does come online. So far and away, well worth it. And we're gonna eat up the solar panels too. I love it. Love when commanders go ahead and do that. Those solar panels are essentially glorified metals, or yeah, glorified metal storage. I always love seeing whenever those do come online, and now the AGO's coming up and online too. It'll be an extra 1,000 or so metal going into the red economy, and it's going to be fabulous. Would love to see Bluto moving forward to claim all these as well. Now that the Sheldon have torn down the static defenses, we do have Mauser rolling out of the lab here for the yellow commander Valgus, trying to hold on to this front line. The geothermal in trouble though, and that is 300 energy. That's about call it half or so, a little less than half of the total energy production right here for the yellow commander does go down the drain. Now it's going to be up to the Mauser to stop this push. The T2 is really the only thing efficient enough to stop this army without having to trade a brutal fight. And don't get me wrong, the brutal fight is sometimes the right option, but if you have T2 and if you can just crush an army without them ever getting a chance to retaliate, I mean, obviously that's what you should go for. Sheldon coming out of the lab right here for Zoodoxis as well, starting to build up on that southern side. Gunships in the air now, trying to harass down Liz AR-74's forces. For what it's worth, the Banshee gunships seem to have gotten quite a bit more popular with their rework. No longer firing that weird projectile, the shotgun projectile, instead firing these little plasma shots. Does it make them all the more better? Well, it makes them look better. Sometimes and beyond a reason, that's really all it takes. You just have to look better for more people to use you. Spybot, dangerously close to that tick running forward right there. We are looking for that miracle connection, I think. Spy tank, however, also rolling forward. Providing a lot of spotting here as well. You can see showing off exactly where the location of all of these units is. Ooh, Spybot does connect. All right, not bad. Yeah, Spybot connects with a whole bunch of those Mauser and some of those Jaguar here, but really there's just not enough. Yeah, the Sheldon are just, they're decent, but for 8 seconds, you really don't have enough time. Whoa, big old commander explosion on the southern side. Looks like those Banshee gunships are proving me wrong, managing to snipe a commander on the southern side. I underestimate Banshees every time I see them, but they always end up blowing my mind. Impressing me one way or another. Anti-air tower's eventually going to clear them out. Huge push on the southern side as well, though. Green commander in loads of trouble right here. Tons and tons of those T2 tanks start rolling in. Maces, just pure mace pushing forward on the southern side here. My goodness. The orange and pink armies are looking dangerous right now. Just tons of maces smashing against the front line here of the green commander, who's gone for a bunch of those medium tanks. 3 Janices would have made a very compelling argument against this, but unfortunately, medium tanks not going to be so fortunate. Nice self-D on the Fiend right there, trying to get maximum value. I like to see it. Scorpion turret firing away here. It's 1 kill per shot, so it is doing efficient work. Whittling this down quite nicely, actually. The gunship's up in the air, making the flanking bonus go. Gymbox with no D-gun. Scorpion turret will eventually be the savior of the base right here, but certainly this leak on the southern side needs to be addressed immediately. Northern side has all but been won at this point as, yeah, forces in T2, yellow, and tan start to move forward. The tech was just a little slower right here for the blue team, and it meant that what advantage those T2 units did afford was exponentially more valuable going up against T1 rather than other T2. Big old bundle of maces moving forward on the southern side. The green base in shambles. Lightning tanks now finding the greatest Newt's base as well. Something tells me that that T2 lab is in loads of trouble. The bull tank starts to bring it down. Commander in trouble here too. That bull tank is horrible at hitting that commander. Really trying its best and not achieving all too much. Eventually, the commander lasers it down. Could have gone for a D-gun. Instead, opted to just go ahead and go for the age-old light laser. These, I feel like these Banshee gunships are a trap. I feel like if you make too many of them, suddenly you give up way more resources than you really expect. They are 135 metal apiece, so, you know, that's half a medium tank to produce every one of these. The maces. Finding Sky Marshal. Boom goes the Green Commander, at the very least managing to take out just about every one of those maces. Certainly there was as much metal, if not more, in those maces as there was in that commander. But my goodness, what a beautiful explosion watching that all go up in smoke. A couple of hero ticks, lasering things down over here. A-bot fearlessly challenging the commander to a laser duel. Parentheses, they don't have lasers. It's a weird kind of battle. Sheldon March here as well. Suddenly things are looking quite awful here for the blue team. Production probably could have gone to T3 at this point. Yeah, I wonder if T3 would have worked. Sometimes you can rush it out just because of how much metal is available on this map, but not going to happen today. Sumos, I mean, they're nice and all, but the waterfall of fire from the Sheldon is just unstoppable. Thousands of damage per second coming out from this gigantic swarm of Sheldon here. Twitchers are knocked down. It's quite nice. At the very least, stopping a lot of that res and reclaim. Well, reclaim, I should say. Fiends burning their way forward here as well. AA-bots still moving to their doom. Not sure what the queue for those is for, but they are still moving to their doom. And it looks like we are headed towards some sort of complete annihilation. T2 Laboratory, very tanky when it's supported by loads of builders. There is obviously a much more vulnerable target here. Boom! Go the dual AGOs, powering the entire blue facility as those Mauser make it into the backline to shut down the blue team. They're dropping like flies at this point with the gunships up in the air here as well. The wind turbines have collapsed, and suddenly all but everyone on the red team, on the blue team rather, has run out of energy. Bull tanks continuing to fire away wherever they can. We even have some T1 trash still hanging out on the battlefield for some reason. Sometimes it's hard to find the opportunity to pull it back into your laboratories and reclaim it all, but it is the most efficient option. Pull it all back, reclaim it all, turn it all into T2. You're gonna have a way more powerful army for it. Paddocks moving forward to reclaim a whole bunch of these bot labs here. Vehicle labs, rather. D-gun, one hell of a weapon. Not gonna happen here. Shockingly, the D-gun is nowhere to be found right here from Paddocks. The blue team holding out hope, but frankly, this Cerberus is the killer of hope. Every one of those shots, and it fires 3 of them, is gonna shake these medium tanks to their core. Even the heavy tank isn't really able to deal with it. The firepower from the geothermal cannon is fairly impossible to deal with. And now with more and more units marching forward, there's really nothing else the blue team can do. We'll go ahead and speed things along here as we watch the T2 crush through these T1 defenses. The lightning turret's not standing a chance, and just like that, the blue team does throw in the towel. What a rapid back and forth match. Well, really a fourth match. But what a rapid match right here between these two teams. Love to watch these Lorders games and see how they figure out how to deal with eco-scaling that is way faster than what you would normally see on, for instance, Supreme Straits or a glittery type map. Always cool to see, and I think it's important when you're playing Beyond a Reason to play on some of these weirder maps, so you get a sense for how you can adjust your build orders and timings to make them even more powerful later on into the game. But anyways, thanks a ton for watching. If you did enjoy, feel free to like and subscribe, all the good stuff, and join the Brightverse community down in the description section, and I will see you in the very next game of Beyond Our Reason. Peace out, everybody.